Picture this, a quiet morning in a small Tokyo park. Elderly residents gather under the soft light of dawn, moving slowly, peacefully, as if the air itself supports them. And then you notice something astonishing. A 92-year-old woman, tiny in stature but steady as stone, bends forward and touches her toes with effortless grace. No shaking, no bracing, no hesitation. Just a slow, smooth motion that looks almost unreal for someone her age. A few meters away, another elder sits down on the ground without using her hands, then rises again in one fluid motion. To the locals, this is nothing special. To an outsider, it looks like witnessing a different version of aging entirely. Meanwhile, in many Western countries, adults in their 60s struggle to reach their shins without bending their knees. Simple movements, tying shoes, stepping out of a car, lowering into a chair become tasks that demand strategy and support. The contrast is startling, not because of genetics or luck, but because of habits formed over decades. Researchers in Japan have long studied why their elders stay flexible, mobile, and balanced far into their 80s and 90s. The answer is surprisingly consistent. It isn't extreme exercise, strict programs, or special supplements. Instead, they practice a series of simple nightly movements before bed, movements passed down through generations, designed to gently prepare the joints and connective tissues for sleep. What modern scientists have recently confirmed is that these gentle motions do far more than improve flexibility. They influence how the joints recover, how the connective tissues reorganize, and how the body resets during the night. Movement doesn't just benefit the moment, it shapes how the body repairs itself while resting. One phenomenon researchers have described is the way joints respond to slow, steady movements done before lying down. Joints contain synovial fluid, a natural lubricant that decreases with age. As fluid levels drop, stiffness in the morning increases. But when a joint is taken through gentle ranges of motion before sleep, the tissues around it warm, soften, and circulate fluid more effectively. This means that by the time sleep begins, the joints are primed for restoration rather than resistance. For Japanese elders, this is not treated as exercise. There is no competition, no intensity, no burning muscles. It is a nightly ritual, calming, deliberate, and deeply intuitive. Over time, these small routines accumulate into dramatic differences in mobility and comfort. Instead of losing range of motion year after year, these elders maintain it. Instead of waking stiff and sore, they rise with ease. The beauty of their approach lies in its simplicity. The entire routine takes around 12 minutes. No equipment. No difficult poses, no strain. Just a sequence of movements designed to release tension, support the spine, and encourage joint nourishment overnight. One of the elders interviewed in Tokyo described it like brushing your teeth. You don't skip brushing because your teeth feel fine, you do it because it prevents problems later. In the same way, these nightly movements prevent the stiffness and tightness that most people accept as unavoidable aging. The first movement in their sequence seems simple, yet it forms the foundation for everything that follows. It is done sitting on the floor, legs extended, allowing the back of the body, the hamstrings, calves, and lower spine to lengthen gently. Anyone watching might not understand what makes it so powerful. To the elders, it is the first step in releasing the tension that accumulates throughout the day. Westerners often overlook this kind of slow, sustained stretch. Many adults rarely sit on the floor, and even fewer practice extended positions that encourage the nervous system to relax. But the Japanese approach teaches that flexibility is not forced, it is allowed. The body cannot be pushed into openness. It must be invited. That is why this nightly routine begins with a movement that asks nothing more than calm breathing, stillness, and patience. As the spine lengthens and the legs relax, the body begins sending signals that it is safe to soften. And once the body feels safe, the deeper layers of tissues begin to respond. The elders often describe this first movement as their reset, the transition from the activity of the day to the restoration of the night. It is the doorway to the rest of the routine. Nothing rushed, nothing strenuous, simply a moment of reconnection with the body. This gentle beginning prepares the joints and muscles for the next movement, which focuses on releasing the spine itself. A twist done lying on the back creates a feeling of softness and decompression through the torso, something that becomes increasingly important with age as the spine compresses throughout the day. But before moving on to that twist, everything starts with the fundamental practice: sitting tall, breathing deeply, and folding forward with patience rather than force. This is where Section 1 ends, with the understanding that extraordinary mobility in old age does not come from extraordinary effort. It comes from small, consistent habits practiced with intention. And the first of these habits is the seated forward fold, a movement that sets the tone for the entire nightly routine. The nightly routine truly begins with a movement that seems almost too simple to matter. Yet for many Japanese elders, it is the quiet foundation upon which all their mobility rests. It is done without force, without stretching for the sake of achievement, and without the no pain, no gain mindset that so many Western exercisers carry. Instead, it is a practice of allowing the body to soften, one breath at a time. The movement is known as the seated forward fold. You sit on the floor with your legs extended in front of you. For many older adults outside of Japan, this position alone can feel unfamiliar. Sitting on the floor encourages the spine, hips, and hamstrings to work together in a way that chairs do not. It is an environment where the body must support itself rather than rely on furniture to do the job. From this simple starting point, the movement unfolds gently. The spine lengthens upward as if a string were lifting the crown of the head. The shoulders settle down rather than collapsing forward. Then slowly the hands begin to walk down the legs. Nothing is forced. Gravity does the work. The body adapts in its own time. The power of this position comes not from reaching the toes but from what happens in the tissues as the posture is held. The back of the body, the hamstrings, the fascial lines along the calves, the long chain of muscles and connective tissue that run up the spine begins to soften. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually, like ice melting on a warm day. The nervous system plays a crucial role. Tight muscles are often not weak. They are guarded. They resist length because they sense instability or fear of overstretching. But when the stretch is approached with calmness, breath, and patience, those protective signals begin to diminish. This is why elders in Japan emphasize breathing more than reaching. Each inhale gently lengthens the spine, and each exhale releases tension. The position becomes less about flexibility and more about quiet communication between the body and the brain. It tells the nervous system, "This is safe. You can let go now." For many older adults who first attempt this stretch, progress might seem slow. At first, the hands may reach only the knees. But over time, days turning into weeks and weeks turning into months, the body begins to adapt. Reaching the shins becomes natural. Reaching the ankles becomes possible. And eventually, for some, touching the toes becomes effortless. The Japanese elders often say that the goal is not to reach the toes. The goal is to reach comfort within the movement. A folded blanket is commonly placed under the sitting bones to tilt the pelvis slightly forward. This small modification makes the stretch more accessible, reducing strain on the lower back and allowing the movement to come from the hips rather than forcing the spine to bend sharply. It is a reminder that comfort is not an indulgence, it is a strategy. A body in comfort can relax. A body in strain will always protect itself. The benefits of this nightly fold go beyond the hamstrings. The slow descent forward, combined with deep breathing, reduces tension in the lumbar spine. Many older adults carry years of stiffness in their lower back from sitting, driving, or simply avoiding floor positions. The forward fold gently loosens these areas, like oil seeping into old hinges. When done nightly, the tissues become more hydrated and pliable. Movement the next morning feels less restricted. The timing before sleep is also important. As evening approaches, the body naturally cools. Muscles become more receptive to gentle stretching. The slow, rhythmic nature of the posture helps shift the nervous system toward a calmer, more restful state. Many Japanese elders describe the forward fold as the moment their day dissolves. The tensions accumulated from walking, cooking, working, or even worrying seem to flow out of the body with each breath. And then there is the deeper layer of change that occurs within the connective tissues. The human body is wrapped in fascia, a network of fibers that respond to slow, sustained stretching by reorganizing themselves. When the body holds a gentle stretch for several minutes, the fascia begins to glide more easily. Restrictions loosen. Movements feel smoother. Over time, nightly stretching can reduce the stiffness that often greets older adults upon waking. One 80-year-old man in Kyoto described his nightly forward fold as the reason he can still garden without pain. He said that the fold washes away the stiffness of the day. To him, it was not an exercise. It was maintenance, a daily brushing of the body's internal gears. The key to this movement is consistency. Doing it once or twice may feel pleasant, but doing it every night transforms the way the body ages. Muscles that were stubborn become adaptable. The lower back that once tightened with every attempt to bend forward begins to soften. Posture improves naturally, as the lengthening of the back body supports a more upright spine. Even breathing deepens, as the position encourages spaciousness in the ribcage. And perhaps most importantly, this posture prepares the body for the movements that come next. Once the back of the body is gently opened, the spine becomes ready for the twist that follows, a twist that brings its own unique benefits, especially for older adults who spend much of their day in upright or seated positions. The transition from section to section is not abrupt. It flows the way the routine does, one slow movement giving way to another, each one building on the last. With the body quieted and the mind calmer, the nightly ritual continues with a posture that looks deceptively passive but plays a remarkable role in restoring the spine. That movement is the lying spinal twist, and it forms the next step in this gentle Japanese evening tradition. Once the back of the body has softened through the forward fold, the nightly routine moves into a position that appears so gentle, so passive, that many people wonder how it could possibly matter. Yet for older adults in Japan, this next movement is one of the most important. It is the lying spinal twist, a posture that has been used for generations to release tension not only from the lower back, but from the deeper structures of the spine that rarely receive attention. You begin on your back, knees bent, feet resting comfortably on the floor. The ground supports you completely, letting the body settle in a way that chairs and beds rarely allow. Then, slowly, the knees drift to one side while the shoulders stay anchored to the floor. The arms spread outward, forming a relaxed letter T. The knees may not touch the ground. They don't need to. What matters is the gradual unwinding that occurs along the entire spine. The twist works because it gently reverses the patterns the spine endures throughout the day. When we sit, walk, or stand, the vertebrae compress vertically. Over time, this creates a sense of heaviness and invisible pressure that builds without us noticing. The twist provides the opposite sensation. It creates space, allowing the vertebrae to breathe, to shift, and to release. As the lower body rotates and the upper body stays grounded, a subtle traction occurs along the spine. It isn't forceful. It isn't dramatic. But in older adults, whose spines may have decades of accumulated tension, this small decompression can feel transformative. Many describe the sensation as if the back were gently being untangled. Others say it feels like their spine is sighing with relief. But the benefits reach beyond the vertebrae. As the knees drop to the side, the ribcage opens in a way that most people rarely experience. The twist encourages deeper breaths into the side body, particularly into the ribs that expand least during normal respiration. These ribs and the small muscles between them often grow stiff after years of shallow breathing, poor posture, or tension. The twist invites them to move again. With each inhale, the ribs widen slightly. With each exhale, the body softens deeper into the floor. Breathing into these spaces has a calming effect that older adults often find invaluable at night. The mind slows, the heart rate steadies, and the nervous system begins to transition into rest mode. It is a natural preparation for sleep, subtly affecting not just the body but the internal state that makes deep rest possible. Some Japanese elders place a small pillow between their knees while twisting. This simple modification supports the lower back and prevents unnecessary strain. For those with tight hips or lower spine sensitivity, the pillow brings comfort and alignment, allowing them to hold the position longer without tension building, and time matters. The twist truly begins to work only after the body stops resisting. At first, the muscles often cling to their normal patterns, unsure whether to soften or guard. But as the seconds pass, as the breath deepens, the body begins to trust the posture. The muscles release, the fascia gently glides, and the nervous system signals that it is safe to relax. Many elders hold the twist for at least 90 seconds on each side, understanding that patience unlocks the movement's full effect. Daily life slowly changes because of this practice. Older adults who commit to this nighttime twist often report feeling lighter when they wake. Turning to look over the shoulder becomes easier. Reaching behind the body no longer feels restricted. Even simple motions like getting out of bed or stepping into a car feel smoother. The twist has a way of returning mobility that many people assume is lost forever. One older woman in Sapporo described how this movement transformed her mornings. For years, she struggled with stiffness that made rolling out of bed a slow, uncomfortable process. She assumed this was simply what getting old feels like. but after months of nightly twisting, she noticed the heaviness in her spine had faded. She could turn her head more freely, twist her torso without bracing, and even reach high shelves without hesitation. It wasn't a miracle, it was maintenance, done consistently. The beauty of the twist is its adaptability. It requires no strength, no flexibility, no equipment. Even elders with limited mobility can adjust the posture to their comfort. They may keep the knees higher, reduce the angle of rotation, or use cushions for support. The twist meets the body where it is, not where someone thinks it should be. When done after the forward fold, the two movements complement each other. The fold lengthens the back body and calms the nervous system. The twist decompresses the spine and rehydrates the deeper tissues. Together, they create a sense of spaciousness throughout the torso that prepares the body for the movements ahead. Because the Japanese nightly routine is not just about stretching or flexibility. It is about restoring the natural rhythm of the body before sleep, removing the stiffness and compression the day creates, so the night can rebuild what has been worn down. After the spine has been softened, reorganized, and gently unwound, the body is ready for a movement that brings fluidity back to the entire back chain. That movement is done on hands and knees. It is rhythmic, wave-like, and deeply soothing. And it forms the next step in the remarkable Japanese evening tradition of maintaining flexibility well into old age, the cat-cow flow. With the spine gently unwound from the lying twist, the nightly sequence moves into a rhythmic pattern that brings life back into the joints and soft tissues. This movement is done on hands and knees, a position that most adults rarely use after childhood. Yet, it is one of the most natural ways for the spine to learn to move again, segment by segment, rather than as one stiff unit. From this quadruped position, the flow begins. As you inhale, the belly lowers and the chest lifts. The spine curves downward, creating space in the front body. As you exhale, the spine rounds gently toward the ceiling, the ribs drawing inward, the back expanding like a soft dome. This cycle continues slowly, connected to breath rather than force. The movement resembles the rising and falling of ocean waves, smooth, continuous, unbroken. What makes this flow so powerful for older adults is that it encourages spinal mobility in a way that is gentle and intuitive. Each vertebra moves in its own timing, loosening the stiffness that accumulates from years of sitting, leaning, or moving in restricted patterns. Rather than stretching one area intensely, the cat-cow flow distributes the movement throughout the entire back, allowing each joint to contribute without strain. Breathing guides the process. Inhale opens, exhale releases. Elderly practitioners in Japan often focus not on how the back looks, but on how it feels from the inside, where tightness softens and where movement becomes smoother. Over time, the body learns to coordinate the motion so naturally that the flow becomes meditative. This gentle oscillation has another subtle benefit. It helps restore the spine's internal fluid dynamics. When the body moves in such a wave-like manner, the tissues around the spinal column are gently compressed and released. This encourages circulation of the fluids that nourish the joints and support the central nervous system. Many older adults find that after practicing this movement nightly, they wake with less stiffness, and the transitions between postures, standing up, walking, turning, feel noticeably easier. But the cat-cow flow is not meant to be a destination. It prepares the body for the next movements that target areas often ignored but essential for balance, gait, and long-term mobility, the ankles and hips. The first of these is the ankle circle, performed in a seated or reclining position. The ankle may be a small joint, but its mobility profoundly influences how the rest of the body moves. With aging, many adults experience gradual stiffness in the ankle without realizing it. The joint moves less, the tissues tighten, and the body adapts by shifting pressure to the knees or hips. Over time, this compensation contributes to discomfort and instability. The simple act of rotating the ankle in slow, deliberate circles begins to undo this pattern. Each direction of rotation coaxes the joint into fuller movement, helping restore a range many people have quietly lost. These slow circles are not abrupt or forceful. They are gentle explorations, allowing the joint to describe the widest comfortable arc. As the ankle moves, the small stabilizing muscles along the foot and lower leg awaken. The joint becomes more responsive, the balance more reliable. After completing the ankle circles, the attention shifts upward to the hip joint. Unlike the knee, which moves mostly forward and back, the hip is a ball and socket joint designed for multi-directional motion. Yet, many adults spend most of their day seated, which restricts the hip to a narrow pattern of movement. Over time, this limited range contributes to stiffness, reduced stride length, and increased strain on the lower back. The hip circles performed in the Japanese nightly routine gently reintroduce the full motion of the joint. Lying on the back and drawing the knee into slow, deliberate circles allows the hip to glide in directions it rarely experiences. These movements nourish the joint, supporting the smooth distribution of its natural lubricating fluid. Many older adults report that after incorporating hip circles into their nightly ritual, everyday tasks, stepping into a car, bending down, lifting the leg to put on pants, feel easier and more natural. Together, the ankle and hip circles create a sense of fluidity in the lower body. They prepare the joints for overnight recovery, reducing the accumulation of stiffness that often makes mornings challenging. And once these joints are softened and awakened, the body is ready for the final movement of the routine, one that affects not just the joints but the entire system of circulation and rest. The last movement is performed lying near a wall. The legs extend upward, supported gently by the vertical surface. It is the quietest posture in the sequence, yet for many elders, it is the most transformative. By raising the legs above the heart, gravity assists in redirecting the flow of fluids that accumulate in the lower limbs throughout the day. The position helps ease swelling, reduces pressure in the legs, and contributes to a sense of lightness that carries into the next morning. In this posture, the spine rests fully on the floor, allowing subtle decompression after a long day of standing or sitting. The back body relaxes, the breathing slows. Some elders place a blanket beneath the hips to create a gentle tilt, enhancing the circulation that the posture encourages. The legs do not need to be perfectly straight. Comfort, again, is part of the method. Staying in this position for several minutes offers a feeling of deep release. Many older adults describe it as if the tension drains from the lower body. The stillness of the posture marks the transition from movement to rest, signaling the body that the day is ending and recovery is beginning. When all 5 movements are performed consistently, they create a nightly ritual that supports mobility, reduces stiffness, and encourages the body's natural restorative processes. None of the movements require athletic ability or strength. They are gentle, intentional, and designed to work with the body's rhythms rather than against them. The elders who practice them understand a simple truth. Maintaining mobility is not about pushing harder. It is about caring for the body with patience and consistency. And through this nightly routine, they demonstrate that flexibility, fluidity, and comfort are not lost to age, they are preserved through small, steady habits.